Thanks for joining another fly tying tutorial brought to you by Togens Fly Shop. Today I want to be tying probably in my opinion, the most effective and simplest pattern to tie, and it's absolutely a killer on the water for me. It's a simple scud pattern. So let's get started. To kick it off, in the vise, I have Togens 3X heavy scud hook, and that's accompanied by my newest, most favorite material that they're carrying, which is the tungsten beads in matte black. I find that the Scud hook, which is the 3X heavy, combined with the tungsten bead is awesome because I don't have to put any split shot on my leader, or on my tippet I should say, or anywhere near it actually, because this thing drops like a rock. I'm always a fan of just the most natural presentation ever. So these two things combined alone let this thing drop, and again, no split shot needed, which is awesome. For my thread, I'm going to be using UTC 70 denier in Chartreuse, which is another one of my favorite colors. A full description, if I do miss any materials, I do apologize ahead of time, but I'll be sure to put a full description of the materials used and the recipe in the link description below. And I'm just going to get started here. And then I'm going to wind that down into the bend of the hook, work my way back up to the top. For the ribbing, I'm going to be using black extra small wire. I'm just going to tuck that inside the bead. And I like to try to keep this completely on the underside of the fly. If you have a rotary vise, it is a bit easier because you can sort of move it and manipulate it. I find if I just angle the wire down and to my left, it'll keep it pretty much right underneath. And I'm going to bring this a little bit further down and then bring my thread back up as well. For the body, I'm going to be using, again, Chartreuse, but this is Floss. So it's just a floss material. I think what's been working is literally the Chartreuse color, specifically for steelhead. So if you fish for steelhead, give this pattern a shot. It's worked tremendously for me. And now I'm just tying this into the side of the fly, sort of just above where I tied in the black wire. And now I'm going to grab both materials on my left, so the wire and the floss, and I'm going to go just a little bit further down into the bend. Because if you notice the real life scuds, they typically have a very weird bendy shape to them. So I want to try to mimic that as close as possible. And then as I work my way up, I want to build a bit of a taper. Again, I've seen them, sometimes they get fatter, sometimes they get skinnier in different places of their body. But to make this as nice as possible and limit the amount of work I need to do with the floss, I'm going to try to build a little bit of a taper now with my thread. can probably get away with using a 140 denier, which is a much thicker thread, and will probably make this process a heck of a lot easier. So before I start wrapping, I'm just going to do a quick little whip finish to just save my work. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my floss and I'm going to start wrapping this as smoothly and as nice as possible. Watch that hook point, because what it'll tend to do is if you nip the floss with it, it'll kind of fray it and spread it out in a way you're not going to like. I think the trick with the floss, very much like thread, is to keep that tension. Tension, in my opinion, is probably the most important factor when tying. Thread tension, for all materials. So again, I'm just with the floss building a little bit of more of a taper as well, right up to that bead. I'm going to secure that in. I want to get in there nice and close with the tip of my scissors. And that looks pretty good there. And now I'm ready to wrap my wire. You can counter wrap it if it's easier. You don't need to on this specific pattern. And if you look at a scud, the segments are typically very, very close together near the bottom of it. And then as it starts to get up closer to the head, they widen out a bit. So again, just trying to do the best I can in mimicking it. Doesn't gotta be perfect. That didn't come out. Got a few little frayed hairs here that are driving me nuts. And I'm just going to do another quick little whip finish to save my work. You don't have to do this step. I like it just to add the increased durability, but I'm just going to slap on some Loon's UV Clear Fly Finish. This is the thin formula because I don't need that much. I just really want to coat the fly and spread it out, and I find it helps make those segments pop a bit more. Again, probably not required. Just gonna hit that with the UV light, and you can see that Chartreuse floss just absolute pop. So even in murky water, and you have a little bit of sun peeking through after a rainy or a cloudy day, this thing can really get the attention of a fish. Should do it. And now for the last, I'm going to be using a Squirrel Dub. You can probably pick any color. I like to have the contrasting color, so I'm probably going to go with a darker mix here. And you really don't need that much. So start off with a little, and then if you want to add more or add some more bugginess to it, you can add. I always start off with a little bit and see how it looks. Okay, that's good for me. So now I'm just going to whip finish here. So I like to do a 5 turn, then I'll do like a 3 or 4 turn secondary. Seat the knot, rip it off. And now what I like to do is I'll come in here and I'll brush out a bit of it just to give it some bugginess and some movement in the water. But there you have it. Really simple pattern, crazy effective, probably my favorite fly at all time. And I'll tie these in different sizes, maybe different mixes of green, different color beads. So give it a shot. Hope you tie one on, and I hope it brings you luck in the water. Thanks for watching. Cheers.